Hi, welcome If I Did It, a show where we analyze and solve pure kerfuffles from MMA world and beyond. Oh. I'm your host, Lexio, and joining me as always is Kid Native Billy Elbow and EUGENE'S Robinson from Aussie.com and author of Fight, everything you ever want to know about ass kicking, but we're afraid you get your ass kicked for asking.
Back to take the title, baby. Don't call it a comeback. Alexi's here.
That's right, man. No more stumbling and bumbling, at least for the first minute.
No more stuttering, muttering, trickery. No. All right.
So, Eugene, you're Nate Diaz. UFC President Dana White is accusing you of turning out fights. You took to social media to respond. This fucker can't stop making shit up about me, and I haven't been offered any fights except the one I laughed at. End quote. Is this enough, or do you need to do more to make your case to the public?
Well, you dropped out for the first part of that question. So I heard you're Nate Diaz, and then I heard laughed at more for the public. So how about like when I was on that French TV show in Montpellier, and my translator tapped out in the first 8 seconds. I'm just going to answer what I think you asked, so we don't have to torture people.
Sounds like a new segment.
Are you talking about the? I got it from Kogan today. The tweet about Dana just making up shit for him.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, you know. Thank you, my friend. You know, he's exactly right. The difference is, and again, this is the Diaz radar detector always on. The difference is 2 years ago, saying what he would have said is something that would have given him a quick trip to poverty and continued, and continued chip on the shoulder in the 209. Now the truth telling actually serves his purposes, as well as being exactly that, truth telling. CEOs make shit up. That's kind of the job description, And the question is, are they aware of, is it an awareness issue? And I think, he is willing to cajole, and I'm talking about the bald one now. He's willing to cajole, he's willing to urge. It's like, look at the spin that the Trump White House is going. Oh, senators are going to have to pay a price if they don't vote for this fucking health plan. Oh, really? They're going to have to pay a price if they go home and have 6 million people who no longer have health. They're going to have to pay a price, but it's all in the spin, baby. So, Nate's turned down fights left and right. Maybe there's some scintilla of truth to that, but outside of one is one fight fights, or two fights, or if I ask him to gain weight and to fight Cain Velasquez, is that a legitimate fight offer? I mean, we don't know what he's saying because it's usually a one-way microphone, but those days are over with Twitter and with people having correctly figured out that the bald one's a short timer and they don't have to be afraid of him anymore. Say what the fuck they want to say. And the reality of it is, what the Diaz's know, what we know is, it's like pornography. You know what it is when you see it. You know a good fight when you fucking see it. Everything else people got to sell you on, and that's it. The ones that are good, you don't have to be sold on. You're going to rearrange your schedule, make up lies, do whatever you have to do, cheat and steal to get in front of that TV, because you don't have to be sold, and unless he's being offered fights that he's been in it too long to not know. So at this point, he's not telling us anything and we don't know.
So Eddie Alvarez was the fight he was probably offered before.
Yeah, what the fuck is that? That's nothing. That's really nothing. Eddie Alvarez, in my mind, did so poorly. Did so poorly his last outing against McGregor that anything he says, including "I'll have ham on that," runs the risk of him being lost battalionized, because it puts on display his complete total lack of awareness. Now, I floated some talk on Knuckle Up about maybe there was. Maybe it was in his best interest to bumble and stumble his way through that fight, but I don't think so. Based on what he said subsequent, it was a crazy idea I had to begin with because I was a booster for the guy, but afterward it was like, no, bro, not you. You put it all on black and you lost. And now if you're smart, you stand up from the roulette wheel, go back to Jersey or Philly, and eat. Do something. Wait for somebody to read because you're done. You're done.
What's your take on Nate?
Well, yeah, I mean, fighting Eddie
Nate,
Alvarez.
Nate on Nate. Nate on Nate.
Nate on Nate.
That's a visual I wish
Yeah,
you
purely
had
in
never
a philosophical.
put in my head.
Nate on Nate crime.
Yeah. No, I mean, the Eddie Alvarez fight is an insult, and Eugene got right to it because Eddie got destroyed in front of over 1 million something people, many of whom had never seen Eddie fight before.
Yep.
So that was their introduction to Eddie Alvarez, and it was sad to see because this is a guy with pretty much a decade of stellar fight performances against top-notch opposition, and he comes in against Conor McGregor and fights like a small child taking a beating. It was humiliating to the nth degree. It was like Spinks, not Leon Spinks, but his son Michael, that was the light heavyweight champ who fought Tyson, and the guy had undefeated light heavyweight champ, and then against Tyson, he curled up into the fetal position.
And he did before the fight. I mean, when he went into the ring, he was in the corner, and he looked over at Mike Tyson, and then inside himself.
He fucking swooned. Swooned.
And Eddie did everything but swoon before the fight. I mean, Eddie went in there, brave face on, but as soon as Conor started touching him with the left hand, it was like he'd never been punched before. He looked like Brock Lesnar taking Shane Carwin's punches. And yeah, Eddie is damaged goods. Nate is not damaged goods. Nate beat Conor McGregor. I mean, he lost the rematch, but that was a kick-ass 5-round fight. Yep. And people know who Nate Diaz are. Millions of people have paid money to see Nate Diaz fight the biggest fighter of our time and beat him once. And the second time, give him everything he could handle. Nate Diaz needs big fucking fights. I mean, it needs to be Anderson Silva, GSP, and that's pretty much it. That tells you how bare the cupboards are over at Zufferland. They got jack shit. I mean, they got nothing lined up. Nothing. That's why this Conor McGregor Floyd Mayweather bullshit.
You know what? I tried to stem the. I'm prone to panic. I am the last guy that you want to say. What you say? Fire! 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 Yeah! You don't want to do it. You don't want to do that. You don't want to tell me shit until it's too late. So, but on this last knuckle up, I just talk myself down. I go, things are not. It's not. Clearly, they're pursuing a regional strategy. You know, they're going for single. Worry about the doubles and the home run and the triples and the home runs later. Right now, it's building up the base, and I got to go with that.
That's what they got to do. But they still got to have headliners. They still have bills to pay. They got to make the payments on the fucking $4 billion loan they took out to buy the UFC. So they got to have cash flow, and they need serious marquee fights in the rest of this year. And the Diaz brothers, both of them, would boost pay-per-view numbers by 500,000 easy. I mean, having Nick or Nate on there will get you some buys because they do it all. They're great fighters. Yep. Fans love them. They have personality. They will elevate the pre-fight hijinks and shit talk just with their presence and their style, their grace and elan and joie de vivre. They've got it all. Savoir-faire, everything.
Well, the je ne sais quoi. But this is the thing where the fact that he's got 1 foot in the old world and 1 foot in whatever world he sees himself in the future, the bald one, that this could be actually, you know, it's like that Far Side cartoon where the guy who owns a donut shop is like, man, I'm losing money every day. And the guy who's hired working next to him is 400 pounds. Yeah, I figured out. I mean, there's a point which, man, none of this shit's just not working right. Hey, yeah. What is the one constant factor? Why shouldn't it? You know, I mean, you go to the bald one. Why is it not? Hey, it's just the way the business is. Hey, man, you better act right if you want that $300 million. You know, get this shit happening.
Are you blaming Dana? Are you blaming Dana?
I'm not going to blame him as much as he could make his life easier, but this is pride talking, right? This is pride. I mean, hubris. I guarantee you these guys come in with these expensive fucking suits and these nice cars, and I bet you it's a class caste issue. You know, it's like you can see it. You know, Trump himself hungers for the approval of that crowd, but he you know, though he went to the right schools, he'll never get there. It's like you can't buy that shit. You could feel your way. Like I used to hang out with the Beastie Boys, and it was great. I'd see that they were like, come down to the Lower East Side and hang, but they were Upper West Side guys. You could feel it. Yeah, and they couldn't shake it. They could come down and make monkey, hang out in the Lower East Side and get in the fights and break bottles and get fucked up. But they were going back to the Upper West Side. And in a similar way, $300 million, I sold it for 4.2. I'm the guy. Those guys from WME come in, I guarantee you they're not treating them that way. You're a cardio kickboxing instructor, Jack, and that's got to fucking rub him the wrong way because he's too smart not to be helping out in a smart way.
Well, one way that they're looking to boost the ducats, Nate, your WME-IMG, with Floyd, Conor, and Jaded forming like Voltron to make the super fight happen. Does your marketing heft and financial interest care where and when it occurs?
Obviously, they care because, Mayweather was talking shit this week about having the fight in Moscow, and he was in Moscow at the time, so it was just pure pandering. I mean, that's just, that's hello, Cleveland, what a lovely city. That's all that is. But on the other hand, if Mayweather had that fight in Moscow, it's a lot easier to cut Zuffa out of their piece of the pie if the fight's over in Pooty Poots land. But at the same time, I think there's so much smoke here that there's fire. I think the UFC and Mayweather and McGregor are actually in negotiations, and I think the UFC is actually bending on this, and it's smart because it's a double-edged sword because this is far and away the most money and the biggest fight they can be associated with this year by like a factor of 10. Okay. I mean, there is nothing even close to this fight on the horizon.
For either sport. Let's say that. For either
sport. I mean, boxing's got bupkis because, we just saw GGG barely edge out a win.
I'm sorry.
Weekend. GGG, Triple G, Golovkin or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but
the buy rate was like what, 150?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it's the guy's in the buzz building phase of his career, and he needed a big knockout, and they need to book him against Canelo Alvarez. And honestly, one of those guys needs to knock the other one out or do something spectacular to get. But boxing's got shit, and MMA, frankly, is in the same boat. But the problem is, if McGregor fights Mayweather in a boxing ring, I just refuse to fathom how there's any chance of a competitive match because Mayweather is the best boxer of our generation, even at his age.
Okay, so you're not all in with box. You're not all in with the Joe Rogan putting the thumb on the scale,
puncher's chance.
That's pure puffery and hype, and it really doesn't serve the UFC well because the UFC is going to come out of that deeply damaged. If McGregor gets steps in the boxing ring with Mayweather and gets his ass beat like I expect him to, that's going to take an enormous amount of luster off of the whole sport and the promotion. But they're in a pickle where they got to get the money now. It doesn't matter what the long-term consequences. They got to keep McGregor fighting, and they got to keep McGregor happy. I mean, I assume their plan is, we'll put this on. It'll be a spectacle. We'll make a lot of money. Maybe the boy will be cut down to size. Maybe McGregor will be humbled by this, and then we can get back to business. But
make him humble.
But there's also his hand is on the tiller as well, right? I mean, if I'm McGregor and I go in and I figure out pretty fucking quickly that I got this with my BJJ thing. Fuck it, I'm gonna lose. I'm gonna go for the DQ because somehow it's less reputable to get DQ'd than it is just to get kicked or your ass kicked over the entire time. I mean, you think he's going to go 12, 15 rounds? Fuck no. He's gonna do something rash and get knocked the fuck out. I got to end this thing. Good luck. Thanks. I tried.
Well, like I said ages ago, his best bet is to get in the ring and immediately act like Tyson in the last Holyfield fight. Just headbutting, clinching, throw Mayweather on the ground, push,
which
shove.
builds up the rematch.
Yeah.
No rematch.
Dipping, baby.
Don't let's not get crazy. That idea, Lost Battalion right now. Nobody will want to see a rematch. Nobody.
And well, there's scenarios that people might want to see a rematch.
Nah. I honestly don't think a single.
I think they would. Well, think about it, because it's like, well, they didn't really get a chance to fight. They didn't get a chance to fight.
Boxing rules are bullshit. Yeah,
you might be.
Fights in the cage.
You might be right, and the same guys with their pockets turned out will be back after.
Exactly. What kind of fight are they expecting to see in the first place? It's not going to be a. It's not going to be a competitive fight. So
Ireland is
have the spectacle. If you have the spectacle, and then it's like, oh, it's pulled away from you. It's like, oh, one more time.
Yeah, it's like that guy I know who saved up his money from his pizza delivery job for a whole year to get an hour with a prostitute porn star. You think that worked out?
I bet it was magic for everybody.
Yeah, he blew his load in like 3 seconds, and then was asking if he could have more time. And she said she didn't like him. I go, well, he just I felt sorry for him, but I didn't like him. So I just kept talking, and then I just said, well, you got 20 minutes left. It's your time. But most guys, they just can't get it up now with this kind of time pressure. They just can't get it up. They just can't. And then eventually the guy just slunk out of there. And then what happened? Well, I'd like to think that what happened is he saved his money up again and showed up the next year. And the same thing happened again. I don't know that for a fact. I'd have to ask her if the other shoe dropped. But come on. I guess I'm wrong. I'm trying to imagine that there are fans out there who will go, that was terrible. I'll never do that. It's not going to
last long enough. That's the whole thing. I mean, it'd have to be a situation where the DQ has to happen. We're talking about a DQ like in the 9th round. It has to happen early enough.
That it's not clear who would have won. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. Now that you say
especially if Floyd is the one that causes a DQ.
Ooh. What if Conor comes out and karate kicks him to the head?
Right.
That would be fucking. Out? I would fucking see. That's the difference between me and him. I would do that. Raise my hand over my head and go, I won, and let the riot ensue.
I wouldn't count it. I wouldn't put it past him to do that. I would not put it past him to do that at all. I mean, what's he lose there? Yep.
Like, he could say later, I just wanted to fight the guy. I knew saying I was going to box him is the only way. But, you do that shit to a guy who's got $100 million in the bank, you might find bad things happening to you.
Does he? Does Floyd have $100 million in the bank? I mean,
I could have you killed for 200, so it's not 100 million that you need.
Yeah, but I mean, does Floyd actually have that money? That's the thing. Is
that's what people are saying?
Is that why he's talking about doing this? Because he's MC hammering himself.
I don't think so. I think he's been tight with his money. I think he's bored.
No, dude has an enormous entourage and massive.
Yeah, exactly, man. Entourage that he only sees half the time when he's training, and now that he's not training, sitting around the house, it's like, what the fuck? Like Prince, I'm bored. You know what? How many times you gonna make a mud wrestle or do whatever the Elvis shit they used to do?
Well, also too, he has an opportunity for a variation of the Great White Hope situation occurring. I mean, how often is that kind of opportunity coming? Every black boxer dreams
the Jerry
Great White Hope situation.
Well, I don't know at this point now. I don't know that's much of a dream. I think every boxer.
The guys will come along and ruin your fucking party real fast.
Yeah. I think everybody's dreaming about getting lots of cash. I think that's a big dream. But I mean, Jack Johnson. Those are different times.
Yeah.
Well, I thought with Jerry Cooney too, man.
I almost got my ass beaten by Jerry Cooney. So I don't want to get. I don't want to get Donna Shalala on if I did. So I shan't retell the story.
What?
Okay, so
what?
Oh, you've never heard the story? Or are you just luring me in?
I just wanted to hear it. I'm
standing out in San Francisco. I walk up to on Broadway, like some band, hardcore band was playing, and I see a friend of mine looking uncomfortable, standing against the wall. And these are the hardcore days where I'd just punch you in the face. I didn't have to find out she was looking uncomfortable. I knew you had fucked up, so I walk over and I say, "Yo, what's up?" And she takes that as an opportunity to scoot out. And he's like, "Oh, I was just talking to her. I was telling her who I am." And I go, "Yeah, well, who the fuck are you?" And he goes, "I'm Jerry Cooney." And I was like, I wasn't sure he was Jerry Cooney.
He was tall.
However, I knew if he was Jerry Cooney, even as much of a bum as Jerry Cooney was, he could beat my ass.
Yep.
So I started talking to him, and sure enough, it was Jerry Cooney. And not only that, as luck would have it, Jerry Cooney ended up being good friends with this friend of mine and appearing in this movie called Mob Queen, about a mobster, Tony Chirico from The Sopranos, who fell in love after his wife died with a hooker that they had set him up with, who also happened to be a trans hooker. And he fell in love with the trans hooker, and so the whole thing is I Love Lucy, where they try to talk him out and talk him into dumping the hooker because they don't want him to find out that she is a he, and then they'll get killed, you know? So Jerry Cooney was in this movie, so we end up recircling again, and he's a great guy.
Man, that's a...
Well, you never heard that story before?
Never.
No.
So why was the woman upset?
Why was what?
Did you say there was a woman that was upset? That's why you...
Yeah, because he
like
was
tall Irish guys.
Yeah, because he was big, you know, and he was kind of looming over her, and he was like, you know, if I'm saying I was at some hotel a week ago, and the woman goes, "Oh, you're checking out?" I go, "Yeah," and she goes, "Well, if you stick around, Klay Thompson is going to be down the street," and I just kind of look at her, and go, "Oh, great. Who's Klay Thompson?" And she looked at me like fucking, like I was like, she looked at me like he's fucking with me, or he's a
everybody watches
man
American
alive.
Idol.
No, not
basketball player, right?
Oh, that's Clay Aikens.
Yeah, basketball player for the fucking the Golden State Warriors, and I just look at it and go, not a basketball fan. All right.
Hey, at least you knew it was. I thought it was America's Most Wanted. I mean, America's Most Talented or whatever.
Yeah. So
well, one guy who I think you're not going to recognize other than his kerfuffle, Eugene, is the fact that you're South African Premier League's Mohammed Anas.
Oh, man.
After winning a match Saturday due to your 2 goals, you felt like the bull of the woods and testified live and in public, if you will. I appreciate my wife and my girlfriend. Sorry to say, I mean my wife, end quote. Are there any PR measures you can make to prevent hard times at your home?
Look. If I'm him, I said, how stupid would I have to be to go up? It's much more likely that I would have said, if I meant my wife and my girlfriend, that I would have said, Susie, I want to thank Susie and Kathy. That's much more likely than I say my wife and my girlfriend. I mean, sometimes I get them confused. Girlfriend, wife, girlfriend. You know, I'm sure you had the occasion of introducing your wife and go, this is my girlfriend. I mean, my wife. I'm saying that if I'm him, I'm pimping I made a mistake. I meant the one, and I just doubled up on it in a weird way. I didn't mean wife and girlfriend. I meant wife, girlfriend, worldfriend. You know, I mean the woman who lives at my house, singular. That's all I got. And the argument that I would use to sell it would be like, if I really meant you and another woman, I probably would have said your name and her name. But there is no other woman, babe. There's just you. Leave my money alone.
How'd you handle it, Nate?
Well, clearly, I don't know. There's multiple angles here. Does it matter what he says? Like, his public reputation has taken a big hit. But that's separate from his relationship with his wife. These are 2 parallel universes here, you know? Because he and his wife...
You mean soccer fans? Really? Rioting soccer fans give a shit?
Nonetheless, your perception is now... You are now branded as you are the wife and girlfriend guy, right? So the fans think you're some kind of freak player, like... But the wife knows what you really are. And so the wife will know if you... are pulling that kind of weak ass trifling bullshit or not. Like, she will know. She can tell. She'll, you know, everybody thinks they're slick, all fucking off and secret and sneaking around. The pheromones you carry around on you give it away to your mate. Like, it's like, can I smell your dick? Just, can I smell your ass walking in the house? I can smell the bitch on you. And even if she can't bring herself to admit it and logically is fighting it, part of her brain knows dude's been stinking around. And so that's one whole thing. And maybe...
But he's a professional athlete. It's not you or me.
Yeah,
Come on.
Well, so she's got to assume that's a thing, you know, probably, because he's got opportunity. But it could be that girlfriend's her girlfriend too. They might have a whole thing going on. So there might be no issue at home. Except, hey, dumbass, you're not supposed to be outing us as freaks.
Polyamorous. No, not freaks. Polyamorous, my friend. Come on, get with
freaks in a good way. Like, you know, with hip hop and all that. You know, like, but but on the other hand, the public rep, I mean, you are now out there as not a player and not smooth. You're out there as kind of a fuck up. And so if you want the ladies to keep coming around, you got to do something to reestablish yourself as someone who has a little bit of game and isn't going to just be outing yourself on TV right after the game like that. I honestly,
that's bad for business. If you want somebody to be discreet, clearly you know this is not the guy.
Yeah,
so the quality of woman he's going to get from now on is the one that's going to leave her fucking earrings in your wife's shoes, you know.
Yes. And this is the kind of deal where a lot of those women, they want to be special. It's like the girl I met at a party in college who was crying because Pete Buck of REM gave her the crabs, and she just couldn't believe it. I was like, you fucked a rock dude backstage after the show. I mean, he didn't even take you back to his room. He fucked you backstage, and you're surprised and upset that you got the crabs. She's like, but their music's so sensitive. I thought I was special. And it's like, and so
the music's not the only thing feeling sensitive.
Yeah.
Well, who's it? The Violent Femmes? I had that great story of Gordon Gano. Who was that fat bitch on the stage? But he did it publicly, and like the entire audience was like, oh, and it was like, go fuck yourself. That's why you don't hear so much from them anymore. Who they are in their music, very fucking different from who
that
they
and
are.
their second album. The Violent Femmes' second album. It's a disaster. But dude's got some work to do.
Have you seen Pete Buck lately?
I can only imagine he's pretty bloated. That would be my guess.
Yeah, he's a little bloated. Time off hasn't served him well.
And balding? Is he like?
And balding. He looks like Frankenfooter from Rocky Horror Picture Show.
He looks. That would be about what I'd.
Well, one person who took time off. I'm not making any comments about the looks. You're Hillary Clinton.
Oh.
According to The Guardian, you told the Society of Irish Women at their annual St. Patrick's Day dinner last Friday, quote, "I am ready to come out of the woods," end quote.
Oh, stop.
The heck
you know what that is? You know, you might want to ask her to deliver a message to Chris Weidman. Got him in.
Are there some Nazis out of the woodpile, Eugene? Because
not yet. I haven't got to the Nazis yet. But anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, Hillary needs to stay home. These Democrats, you know, they had an article today in the paper about they had all the big donors come around, and they're going to keep giving David Brock and Media Matters and Center for American Progress more money. It's like, let's keep giving the same assholes who just lost 1,000 elections in the last 8 years more money, and maybe something different will come out of it. Like, yeah, Hillary needs to go away. Chelsea needs to go away too. Chelsea's on the board of Expedia with some kind of deal where she gets 250 to 300 grand a year in stock options because she's got so much business inside, or is it her?
Oh man, don't even fucking start. I'm in. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, you're horny. This is my answer. Like, let me hate on Chelsea. Chelsea's just a big fat target, just because. Like, who can relate to this? Like, who's she running to represent? Like, she's obviously setting herself up for a political campaign, right. But for who? Who is living this life besides her and like 8 other people? Like, and they're all named Bush or Clinton. Like, fuck these people. Go away. Take your money and go away. You can't have the money and the love of the people too. Pick one. And that's my advice to the Clintons. Go away.
What's your advice?
You know, this is an especially bitter thing for me because she's a Stanford grad and I am a Stanford grad. And I think that's pretty much where the similarities end. 300,000. No, I had 2 years where I made 300,000, and those were great, glorious years. I had to work 3 jobs to do it, but I was doing it. And I was the greatest guy in the world then. I was super happy. The reality of it is, now I'm in Marvin Gaye land. The simple fact is I can't pay my taxes. So it's unfair to ask me to talk about Chelsea, but I can talk about Hillary. And it's like, don't let him do it to you, Susan Lucci. Don't let him Lucy Van Pelt you. Do not fall for this. America has spoken any number of times. Yeah, leave as Secretary of State, leave as Senator. Do not fucking do this.
Don't run for mayor of New York.
Do not do this. You know, America will have a woman president, but it will not be you. You're just not. I cannot stand it. I can't stand for the same reason that I can't stand the other one. Who is the other one? Low energy. What's his name again? The Bush.
Jeb Bush.
Right.
Jeb. Can't even remember his name. I don't like hearing talk about him. I don't like hearing talk about her. You got to know when to hold it, know when to fold it, push back from the fucking table, and just stop already. Enjoy life. You got $1 million kajillion. You can pay your taxes. Leave us the fuck alone, because you're crippling America because of our refusal to move beyond this, some sort of weird sense of entitlement you have. You know, and I'm convinced that as long as you're in there filling the vacuum with the selfies and the hiking pictures and all that shit, you know, we're not going to get somebody more reasonable than Perez or Ellison, neither of which I'm thinking are exciting choices. And the fact that we got to go to a 70-year-old Brooklyn guy, you know, Bernie, to excite people means we really want to be excited. And that's not you. It hasn't been you. It will never be you. Stop it. Bill can't talk to you. Nobody can talk sense to you. But the last truly free voice in America is talking to you. And I'm saying right now, stop it.
You need to trademark that last true free voice in America thing.
I stole it from Cabaret Voltaire, who stole it from Dr. Gene Scott. So I don't think I can.
Still, I think you can trademark it.
Probably could. But you know what? I think that this sets up perfectly for the next question, Eugene, because you're a jaded Democrat.
We're professionals.
That's right. You're a jaded Democrat. With the Daily Beast reporting President Trump's Supreme Court nominee Neil Gorsuch was an ardent defender, a member of a frat with a racist rape culture, how do you prevent your party?
You just said the same thing twice. You said like a frat, and then they had like a rape. You just say frat. I got you right away.
How do you prevent your party from doing what they do best at crunch time during confirmation hearings? Dropping the ball.
You know, there's a guy who laid it out at Time magazine today perfectly. He just talked about perfectly what they need to do. You know, are they going to make Mitch McConnell? Is he going to fucking try to get rid of the filibuster in order to get the 60 vote, to get the super majority, or is he going to fucking take a suck? You know, at this point now, you ever play that game Mumbledy Peg?
No.
Okay. I've heard if you're a hardcore guy, you play it with knives. If you're a weakling like me, you play it with no, that's kind of a version of it. You play it with darts, and you stand opposite another guy, and you're drinking, right? And you throw darts at his feet. And, you know, if you hit his foot, you got to buy him a drink. And if he hits your foot, he's got to buy you a drink, right? So you want to get, and of course, the winner is, if you hit, neither one of you hit a foot, is the one who gets closest to the other guy's foot. Simple game, right? Simple, stupid bar game. However, it works in one of those strangely weird high school ways. You know, you might not care about winning after the guys hit your foot with the dart a couple times. You just start throwing the thing right at his fucking leg, and fuck that, buy me, you know, here's a drink, boom, fuck you, you know, and then it ends up in a fist fight. So I'm not above that kind of juvenilia. I'm going to say, like, if you remember in the Reichstag that Hitler liked this whole team of opposites thing, and he would like set these guys at each other. And it was understood that this is the law of the land now. That so when they passed each other in the Reichstag, they'd be holding on to their Lugers backs to the wall because you didn't know when you're going to be taken out back and summarily executed. You got, the Democratic Party, do not do this thing. We're better than that thing. No, don't do that. America doesn't want to hear it. The left, specifically in America, doesn't want to hear it. The 52% of Americans who voted for Hillary don't want to hear it. Nobody wants to fucking hear it. You lose nothing by fucking opposing this guy, filibustering the fuck out of it. And then Mitch McConnell should go, okay, you know what? All right, we'll let this one go. I'll trade you one Gorsuch for a Garland. Can we now do business like adults? You got up on me. You hit me in the foot with a dart. Can we now do business? But that's not going to happen.
No. I mean, there's literally nothing they can do to stop the Gorish nomination, but they can lose the 2018 elections if they roll over and look like wimps and facilitators of Trump and McConnell's agenda. Like, they've got to stand for something. And Gorish is just as gross and awful as Roberts was. I remember whatever it was 8 years ago when they confirmed John Roberts, and it was like, all these questions about choice. Mostly, they didn't talk about business at all. And this guy was the most fucking obviously in the pocket of big business judge ever. And, he goes on to pass Citizens United and repeal the Voting Rights Act and all this other bullshit. Like, don't fall for the reasonable sounding bullshit. You know what this guy is, and you're either for it or you're against it. This guy represents more of big corporations getting whatever they want and fucking people over. And Democrats either need to decide we're for that or we're against that. You can't pretend to be against it and actually be for it anymore. So, yeah. You got to fucking, if you're a Democrat.
Yes, you can. If I start making $300,000 a year, then I'm for it.
Sure you can. But if you're a Democratic voter, you can be calling offices, you can be writing letters, you can be speaking to your senator and make yourself heard and make it clear that, if you don't oppose this ass clown, I'm sitting home and not voting for you in 2018. And I'd rather have a fucking Republican than have a guy that's going to be voting like a Republican representative.
Better an honest enemy than a false friend.
That's right.
Well,
great answer, guys.
Nate, you're the U.S. State Department.
Yes, I am the U.S. State Department. Who told you?
Well, those in the know. The University of Southern California hosts African delegations to meet with U.S. government officials and business leaders each year at the African Global Economic and Development Summit. According to the Voice of America, quote, this year, the African Summit has no Africans. All were denied visas, end quote. You've not provided a comment, so give us one.
So exactly how much sleep do you think Rex Tillerson is losing over this shit? Like, from what I can tell, from what I'm hearing, Tillerson doesn't even give a shit that Jared fucking Kushner is the de facto Secretary of State. Like, foreign dignitaries are going and meeting at the White House with Kushner and Trump and bypassing Tillerson. And Tillerson's like cool with that. So, like, dude's phoning it in.
He's on a snipe hunt.
Yeah. Dude's phoning it in, doesn't give two fucks. I'm not quite clear on what his agenda is because he hasn't made it manifest yet. And this African trade, how much trade is coming from Africa anyway? Like, this is negligible. They don't give two fucks. It does represent a nastiness and a self-defeating aspect of their racist and hateful anti-immigrant policies, which you're seeing in business, like here in Texas, the San Marcos outlet malls that used to be fucking chock full of trucks and SUVs from Mexico every weekend, just stocking up with shit and driving away full and leaving lots of money behind. Now the mall's empty because nobody wants to come to America if you're Mexican. And so there's a bigger picture problem here. But the African delegation thing, like, these assholes, they don't care. They do not care about Africa one fucking bit. And yeah, so you don't do shit. That's what you do if you're the State Department. If you're Tillerson's State Department, you just go back to having steak and cocktails or whatever it is you're doing while you're not acting as Secretary of State.
Damn.
You tell your office assistant to jet off a letter to San Escobar. For those of you who don't know, go to Twitter and follow San Escobar. It's at RPD San Escobar, and it came from the equally repugnant Polish party, the Peace and Liberty Party, PIS, that party, and they're in power now because nobody turned, like 70% of the electorate showed up, and they're complete lunatics, and like the president at one point was going, well, they said, how did you enjoy your trip? He goes, oh, I met lots of great dignitaries. I met the president of San Escobar, and the Twitterverse lit up because, of course, San Escobar doesn't exist. And then the timing was perfect. It dovetailed with who's the Kellyanne Conway's Bowling Green Massacre and San Escobar, just made up places. But you got to send Tillerson to these places because he won't know. Send him to a place called San Escobar. You could send him to Chili's. Send him to fucking Chili's restaurant. Get a bunch of Mexican guys come out and say, welcome to San Escobar. And he'll go back to Trump and go, it was great. San Escobar, we should really throw our support behind them. I don't know. Maybe they got oil. I don't know. And Jared Kushner could look up from his green eye shade and go, I'm sorry, you made me lose count. Where was I again?
Man. Well, this brings us to our teachable moment. Eugene, your deceased rock and roll icon, Chuck Berry. The world mourned your death, and by celebrating the joy you brought through your music instead of the litany of kerfuffles that would have derailed almost any other career. Can we attribute your PR invincibility to a pre-internet age?
Fuck that. That shit's on video. What do you mean?
Or some juju you received at the crossroads?
I'm gonna look. The difference is between, say, an R. Kelly and a Chuck Berry is that outside of the bust for the Mann Act, with taking the 16-year-old across the border for illicit purposes back in the 50s, which could have been driven by racism, you don't know. At that point, was she 16? I don't know. Was she white? Yeah, for sure. His later predations were purely above, once bitten, twice shy, 18 and over. So if you have consenting adults, one woman who apparently wants to dress like Little Bo Peep and then lay in the bathtub while he urinates on her, whatever. It takes, I'm not here to judge. It takes all types.
But the big bust was when he was caught videotaping people against their will at the Berryland amusement park that he owned, and that's what.
Yeah, but talking because does Chubby Checker have a career? None of us know whether he's even alive.
Chubby Checker had no talent. You can't compare Chubby Checker to Chuck Berry. Come on.
Little Richard's got oodles of talent. I'm saying that by the time that these guys were nostalgic acts, by the time the 60s rolled around, you know who's rare? I'll tell you who's rare. Isley Brothers are rare. Isleys have had the hits in the 50s. They had hits in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s.
Because there was a younger set of Isley Brothers to come along. If Chuck Berry had a little brother who was 22 in the early 70s.
It's not like the Neville brothers. Fucking Ronnie Isley, dude's fucking, he's like the Dorian Gray. The guy's like 77 years old.
Mr. Biggs.
Younger brothers
Mr. Biggs.
It's Mr. Biggs in R. Kelly videos and everything, man.
Exactly. So, I mean, Chuck Berry, Jerry, these guys, solo guys were nostalgia acts. By the time disco rolled around, they were nostalgia acts. So it's not like he had much of a career. He had a working career, which is where the Monkees are. If you must know, the fake band that became a real band. Any of those guys, Herman Hermits, Eric Burden, any of these guys who are still floating around doing the oldies circuit. That's a working career. They got it, and they have fans who are rabid. Actually, Nico, Oxbow's good guitar player, his ex-girlfriend of his was going out with Mickey Dolenz. And I saw them in the airport, and I was like, oh, shit, there's Mickey Dolenz. And Mickey Dolenz was like, he still thought he was fucking somebody. I was like, dude, look, Aaron Neville, I saw him in the airport, too, was acting like a prick. But at least the guys had a hit in the 90s, what the fuck? Mickey Dolenz, come on,
Hey, so Chuck Berry, Sunday. Come on, that's some respect.
Yeah, right. So I mean, Chuck Berry. I mean, look, you know my Chuck Berry bathroom story, right?
Yes.
Yeah. This guy. Yeah, this guy. He had a. There's a corollary. There's like a who's that other the Charlie Sheen's kid. Charlie Sheen, Martin Sheen's kid. He's like the modern day equivalent where
I am my father.
That's part of the legend, right? That's part of, anybody who was going to be scared off by Chuck Berry's creepy fucking ways was scared off ages ago. He likes to watch people poop. Oh, well, that Chuck, that's just his sitcom. He likes to urinate on people. Oh, that Chuck.
Is this Chuck Berry urinating on a woman? Find out. Call 1-888. Yeah, commercial when I came to New York on public access television. It's like, is this Chuck Berry urinating on a woman?
Yeah, no, he didn't have a career to squander. And going back to Albert Speer's theory of ruin, the reality of Chuck Berry is Chuck Berry looked good for every age of Chuck Berry. He died at 90. He would look like a fucking good-looking 90-year-old guy. So it's like, we're forgiving to people who look good. It's the ugly people that we're not nice to.
What you're overlooking here is his big comeback in the late 80s when he wrote an autobiography, which is excellent, by the way. The guy was a gifted writer, wrote it all himself, and did a big special Hail Hail Rock and Roll, got Keith Richards in to put a band together and the whole bit. And that was supposed to
reintroduced him.
He had just been the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame had just started. He'd just been in there. This was going to reestablish him as not just a working man career. Because, honestly, Chuck Berry should not be down there with the Monkees, and not even Eric Burden. Eric Burden's very talented, but Eric Burden and Herman's Hermits. Chuck Berry was fucking bigger than that. I mean, Chuck Berry is right up there with Elvis and Bob Dylan and Louis Armstrong and Hank Williams and George Gershwin, any of the greatest American musical figures. I mean, Chuck Berry's contribution matches that easily. And his influence is as big as anybody this side of James Brown. Every white boy band in England and America learned their whole fucking bit from Chuck Berry. I mean, maybe they took a little Bo Diddley and a little Buddy Holly, and maybe they learned to sing like Elvis, but really, Chuck printed up the formula, and he conceptualized it. He's the one that made the myth of rock and roll. Hail, hail, rock and roll. Roll over Beethoven. Give me that rock and roll music. He made it a fucking myth. Yep. This is why Merle Haggard was greater than Buck Owens, because Merle Haggard created a myth. Buck Owens just wrote hit songs. They were great, but he didn't create a myth. Chuck Berry created a myth. He formalized the instruments that rock and roll bands for decades after him used. His poetry and his lyrics are incredible. This guy should have been at Elvis levels for the rest of his career, not fucking playing, state fairs with the Ringo Starr All-Stars. This guy
he didn't give a shit about that. The difference is
he did. He wanted that comeback bad, man, but not bad enough to behave himself. And we haven't even talked. I could throw in sort of a modified heel turn. Keith Richards totally fucked him on that deal. Fucked him in the ass. That backstabbing shit sack Keith Richards. Keith's supposed to be his number one protege and number one admirer, and he puts the band together and does a special. But Chuck is so peevish and difficult. There's no really two ways around it. Chuck was an asshole, and I mean, did multiple prison times and had to deal with promoters ripping him off. So I give him some sympathy for being a complete asshole. But he was such an asshole to Keith Richards that Keith Richards spent all his PR time shit talking Chuck Berry and saying how impossible he was to work with, and that killed Chuck's comeback. So Chuck didn't dodge a bullet. I mean, he fucking wrecked his career and lowered himself down to the level of fucking Chubby Checker, somebody who shouldn't even be.
Hey man, you're saying lots of negative things. You're not looking on the bright side. Dude was in an apartment in San Francisco on a toilet doing blow while a whole line of people lined up to suck his knob.
Hey,
you
he's
can't
Chuck
tell me
Berry,
that,
man. I mean,
you can't tell that. He's not.
That's living. That's making it.
Yeah, he's he's Chuck Berry.
Nobody's doing that to Chubby's Checker.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, he didn't live on the heights like Elvis, etc.
I don't know, Nate. That sounds pretty
I'm not feeling sorry for
Jerry Lee Lewis did things like that all the time, and then he killed them all.
Yeah, right. Well, look, you want to feel sorry for a musician? You want to feel sorry? Yeah, sorry for a musician. Feel sorry for me, okay? Sorry for that guy. That guy had it made, man. Chuck Berry, last job he had that he worked, like a job, he was 16. I'm 54, Hey, Cleveland. Yeah, okay, man. You're right.
Yep. But Chuck wrote music for everybody.
Yeah,
he wrote
true.
music for tiny elite. That's the difference.
Yeah.
You made the music you wanted to hear. Chuck made the music we needed to hear.
I would take 20 Oxbow fans. I really 20 Oxbow fans could beat a stadium of Chuck Berry fans. I guarantee you. The level of bitterness and anger and anomie and disaffiliation that goes with being an routine Oxbow listener would fire them up to an entire stadium of fucking Chuck Berry fans.
Man.
Plus the age difference.
Yeah, well, that too.
Are you gonna have a heel turn, Nate, or is that?
Am I gonna have a heel turn? Of course, I'm gonna have a heel turn.
I thought when you said the Keith Richards.
Well, you know, that's just a perpetual heel turn. I never stopped thinking about the many betrayals of Keith Richards. But now there's this protest at the Whitney Biennial. Have you heard about this? Where a white woman painted a portrait of Emmett Till, the martyr, Emmett Till, who was murdered in the 50s in a horrible racist lynching, and his mother insisted on an open casket, and the boy was a beautiful 15-year-old boy, and then was beaten horrifically until he looked ghastly, and his mother wanted people to see that, and
he was mutilated.
Mutilated horrifically, and it really exposed lynching for what it was.
This wasn't a lynching. This was a mutilation.
Lynchings. All lynchings were mutilations. It was just lynching. All lynchings were open season on black people. If you're some dumbass white guy, I don't care how shitty things are, you can always go kill some black dude, and they didn't say black dude. Like that's what it was. It was a mob of white dudes killing some 15-year-old kid for no good reason. And
they had a reason. They had a reason. He
whistled at a white woman. Yeah. So. Anyway, this artist recently saw that and was, upset about Ferguson.
Something the white woman has since gone on to debunk, didn't she? Debunk it like
she did recently.
Actually, he didn't say anything to me. Actually,
And look at the photograph; she looked a little colored to me.
That we're switching white woman because I'm talking about the white woman who painted the portrait of Emmett Till recently.
Oh, okay.
And now there are protesters protesting, saying that since she's white, that her painting of Emmett Till should be not just banned, but destroyed. It's not quote, not acceptable for a white person to transmute black suffering into profit and fun. I mean, this notion that like art should be judged based on the skin color of the creator, that's what the whole fucking anti-racism thing is about. If you're just going to turn the table so that we're still racist, it's just our turn to be on top. And all you assholes who are white, fuck you, that's exactly what Mao did. It's called essentialism. And it's things like what happened in the Cultural Revolution, where people are being prosecuted because their parents were prosperous farmers or bourgeoisie running dogs. And it's fucking bullshit, and it doesn't solve anything, and it just digs holes deeper. So that's my heel turn. And the only people that would put up with this shit are the fucking effete liberal do-nothing rich snobs at the Whitney. Like, you're not pulling this shit on, like, anybody who's not completely frozen with white guilt.
But you're missing the point here, and this is actually a good point. Right?
What's the point?
And the point is, I was just about to say, if I worked at the Whitney, I would tell them,
but you don't work at the Whitney. See, if you work at the Whitney, you kick their ass and shut them up.
I don't work at the Whitney. I wonder if anybody who looks like me works at the Whitney.
Exactly.
If they do, they went to Harvard. I fucking guarantee it. Or
I went to Stanford, and I would have fucking spoke up and go, fuck off with all that. Fuck off with all that. It's art. You don't like it, peddle that shit somewhere else. Write your congressman a letter about how they're about to ream you in the state over this healthcare thing. Don't bother us artists. Good luck. See you later. But the guys at the Whitney can't do that. Why? Because maybe there's nobody who looks like me who could say that at the Whitney.
Maybe. That I don't know, and that might be a good point. But I mean, and the whole, I'm not going to be defending the fucking Whitney or modern commercial art, blech. But I'm just saying this idea that if this painting had been painted by a black person, it'd be wonderful. But since it was painted by a white person, it's exploitation. Just fuck that noise. That's ridiculous.
I agree with you so much I don't even have to say anything else. So
you still insist on talking over me. I mean, come on.
What would a heel turn be without Eugene interjecting?
I was completely silent, and it was for a second there. Nate was like, "Gun lovers in America, they're coming to take my guns. They're coming to take my guns." Oh, nobody's taking my guns. I was quiet, point, man. Quiet, purposefully. Just to let you rant about how I was stepping on your lies. And it's just you on stage alone.
I'm foiled again.
Eugene, you have Chris Weidman. He has you taking over his heel turn.
No, man. I'm getting a lot of action from, thank you. I'm getting a lot of action from the watch list. In fact, In fact, dude, since I've opened up the Twitter feed, get a lot more action in the Twitter feed. Dude, I don't know if he wants me to mention his name, but he designed a GIF, which is the Lost Battalion watch list warning buzzer. And it sounds just like the ones in James Bond movies. Wah, 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 wah. And so now the guys will just send it when somebody, when somebody is like saying shit that's misty, and that actually, there have to be fights to have guys in the Lost Battalion, or that a guy's got to get behind a microphone and say something Lost Battalion. But with the button, you can get guys who are saying stuff kind of crazy, and then you gotta go, oh man. So I'll just tell you who the most recent, and it pains me to say this, the most recent, the watch list button was pressed. I'm Lando Venata. And
that's beneath you, Eugene. That
no, I feel I'm a fan of this guy, but I had to. You've
got to at least be a care before you can be in the Lost Battalion. You can't go from don't care.
Venata was a care. What's the matter with you? Venata was a care a long time ago.
Barely a care once.
Oh, well, no, not for me. He was a care a long time ago. So, and then of course, let me find the little buzzer. What he said today. And the guy's legend says, we'll call him Mr. SM. He goes, and the street fight stories just keep coming. Of course, he's a hashtag woodpile for the Weidman stories, which is noteworthy in a very serious way. You're making fun of me with the Weidman thing, but you remember my story about my writing for Vice's Fightland, and about how they killed a couple of my pieces. I go, look, I'm never writing for you guys again. This is bullshit. There's nothing wrong with these pieces. And then finally they came out of the out of the dark and revealed that it was a vertical funded by the UFC, and the marching orders were, we didn't want fighters to appear as thugs. So any reference that Harley would make to street fights, or that Jamie Stewart from Juju made to street fights, were enough to get the pieces killed. I go, you come to me and you tell me that, I edit that out of the pieces. That's fine. Subsequently, of course, the vertical was developed, and the UFC was like, the way these deals work, sponsorship deal, maybe it lasts a year, maybe it's 2 years. They're no longer involved in the sponsorship vertical. I think the numbers were good enough so that they just kept doing it. But the reality of it is, the bald one doesn't like this. So what does it mean that Chris Weidman is talking about street fights that he's gotten into where guys' skin was falling off of guys' faces? This is either another example of how the bald one has got one foot out the door and just not paying attention, or that the guys at WME have contravening orders to, like, you say whatever you need to say when that mic is in your face to get fucking column inches, because otherwise, you are done. But I thought it was a real super interesting development that got my kind of Zapruder. It's like, hold on, did he just say that he got into a street fight on the same day that War Machine gets fucking or like within a 24-hour period where War Machine is found guilty of these 27, 29 charges? Interesting. Really,
I should have done the heel turn on that fucking jury, though, not convicting him on every count. Like, that was such bullshit to hung jury on the attempted murder and the burglary, etc. But that's neither here nor there.
Well, at this, I'm guessing maybe they had good reasons for it, but
sexist pigs, that's why.
But Venata's comment on which I'm sorry can't find it because I'm getting too many tweets. But Venata's comment on his either Twitter page or Tumblr page was classic and watch listy like all get out. And he's been a care for me for his last 3 fights have been cares for me. So oh here we go. Here it is. And the Ray Borg thing. Ray Borg is actually not watch listed. He's in the Lost Battalion for a quote that says this: "I'm going to be the guy to take out Demetrius Johnson, period," end quote. And in the background, you hear chop, chop, chop. Hey guys, chop. It's Chris Weidman off chopping the wood. So we do have an entry. We do have Ray Borg, and Ray Borg is no slouch, which makes it like, yeah, he's not a Lando Venata, but Lando Venata is, I'm going to get in somewhere. So that's where I am right now.
Well, thank you for joining us. Follow us on Twitter at EUGENE'S Robinson, the kid named Alexi Old. Please give us a thumbs up, Eugene.
Bob Bing, or on Instagram at Mr. Sleep 3. I don't know you. Alexi just joined Instagram.
I just did.
But I pass her protect. I got to approve you for the for Instagram. That's still a private party. But Twitter is now a coliseum. So come on in.
Ooh. Subscribe to MMANation.com on YouTube and MMA Nation on iTunes. Visit Bloody Elbow and read Eugene at Ozzy.com. Be sure to check out all three of us at Amazon.com. Give us those thumbs up if you're looking at us now. And you're enjoying it, because I know you are. I know you are. We'll be back next week with another installment, If I Did It. And we don't know what we're going to be talking about yet, because the pair mistakes have yet to be made.